you wanted to hear what the voice of an angel sounded like, we just heard it. It's amazing, this Caron Chapel service. I welcome you again. This is for our YouTube audience as well, so we're taking just this portion of it, so you can catch it on Caron's channel. We got a couple thousand people probably just sitting there waiting for the next chapel service to be loaded. Oh, I can't wait. Gonna watch that. Hello to everybody who just couldn't quite make it out in the freezing weather, watching us on the streaming portion of this Sunday. And I want to talk a little bit about why we're here. Because I know when I got here, November 7th, 2017, the first thing they told me was, "Why do you have all these drugs in your bag?" That was the very first. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I didn't understand that. I didn't know what I was getting into, actually. These were not like, illegal narcotics. Unfortunately, it was just like Dayquil and a whole bunch of stuff that I would take. But I didn't know that you couldn't have that here. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me. You're gonna take my NyQuil? Like, what is happening?" I didn't know I did not know what I was getting into. I had no idea. Because I didn't want to come to rehab. I had already figured out life. I had 35 years of heavy drinking, and I had figured out exactly how to do life. I knew that I had the secret sauce, with the secret sauce. It was beautiful. And when I was a public accountant for 3 years, and they fired me because, I'm drunk in the bathroom half the day, that didn't go well. Then I was a TV sportscaster for 10 years. I mean, just a little bit of drinking in that industry. That was perfect. And then we had our daughter. And I was like, I think I need to slow down. But how do I do that? For me, it was all about getting amped up. More energy, excitement, adrenaline. So I was like, maybe I'll choose another career. So I became an online travel. We started a company that dealt with all-inclusive vacations that became big. And so that all-inclusive, the perfect place when you're trying to get sober. An all-inclusive hotel in Cancun or the Dominican Republic. I would just park myself at the bar all day, all night. So why am I at Caron? It was because I was in London. And it was October 18th, 2017, and I had the great idea that I was going to leave my wife, who had a lot of anxiety and depression. I have no idea why, living with an alcoholic for decades. And my son, who was 12, who was my closest buddy. My daughter had already gone to college. And I was like, I can't take this. I got to go sing on a cruise ship. That was my plan. And while I was in London, after a 3-day binge by myself, I walked down the stairs and I heard the voice. And this is the voice that I would call God. You could call it whatever you want. Higher power, yourself, your inner spirit. And the voice said, "Okay, I just need to hear you say, you're going to leave your wife, and your son. I just need to hear you say that." I couldn't. I was like, I can't. I was like, what is going on? I was crying. I was just like, I can't. And this voice said, "It's okay. We're going to rehab." Which is where I think I uttered the words, Did not want to hear that. I'd figured out life. I figured it out. There I was, 51 years old. So a month later, I show up here with my bag of drugs. And I'm sitting over here. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? What is going on? And what I quickly learned on that first Sunday that I sat over here was that I'm supposed to be here. And it's not because there's something wrong with me. It's not because I have a genetic disposition to alcohol, which of course I do. It's not because I grew up with family trauma, because we all grow up with that. Let's face it, being a child is the most traumatic experience that there is. All of these factors played into it. It's because alcohol was a part of my journey. I needed to drink for 35 years to survive. To survive. That was needed. My soul needed it. My spirit needed it. It wasn't that I had just decided that, this is the way it's going to be. Literally, I believe it was an initiation process. It was sacred. When I got here, they told me, write a letter to alcohol, my counselor. I wrote this nice long letter. She opens it up. She's like, what is this? It said, thank you, alcohol. There was a thank you letter to alcohol. She's like, you got this backwards. You're not supposed to write a thank you letter. You think your family is thankful you drank? And I said, I don't know. I don't think so. But my family is thankful that I'm here. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't drink. I wouldn't be here. Most of us in our life don't get the chance to have an initiation. We just don't get it. We have so much going on. The people that seem like they got it all together. The ones that go out and they have a glass of wine and they're like, whoa, that's enough for me. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Who wants a glass of wine? It sounds so boring. The initiation for each of us is different. Because our acceptance of life and ourself is what comes with initiation. Because I knew I was supposed to be here. I heard the voice. Like, just the way I heard the voice, that I'm supposed to come and be here now. I just knew it. So intuitively, I believe your soul, your spirit knows that you're supposed to be here. And not to fix something. This was your initiation. You had to survive life. That's why step one of the steps is one of the funniest, I think, of all, where it says we are powerless over alcohol. Actually, you're the superheroes of alcohol and drugs, just so you know. You do try to ingest more than, humanly possible. And we make it. Like, here we are. We made it. So, what I want to argue today is, why is it that we choose this? Why is it that somehow, and I'm talking family members too, because somehow a lot of our trauma and a lot of our triggers come up as family goes through this process. And we sit in our own discomfort. So you have to have this ability, they call it pain tolerance. Pain tolerance. But I'm going to argue that acceptance overrides pain tolerance. One of my good friends is named Emerald Sage. And if you want to look her up online, she calls herself the Yeshuani. It's like the female Christ is sort of how she's out there producing these videos. But her idea of initiation comes through childbirth. So she has 4 children. And all of them she had at home. Each and every one of them. And she said it was the most painful process she could have in her life. It was so painful for her. But she understood that this was something that she needed to go through. She knew this was something that she had to do. And through that pain, through the pain of doing that, she said she got the power to be who she was, to know that she could overcome whatever it was in the future and to trust her intuition. Because intuitively speaking, when we're on alcohol and drugs, we're just not able to be present to ourselves. They showed me the feeling wheel, when you get here. How do you feel? And I started crying. He's like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't even know how to answer that question. So as you're going through this feeling of pain and of suffering and intuitively knowing whether or not I'm supposed to be here, what I'm supposed to be doing, what in the world keeps you with this idea of hope? Where does the hope come from? And that's why we have chapel service. That's why every Sunday we get together here. And you know where I hear the hope? It was in the song that we just heard. I couldn't even tell you what the exact words were, but I felt hope, and I felt love, and I felt acceptance, and I felt like I was home. Like I was home. So on this journey that we're all going on, your initiation process looks different than anyone else's. So I don't want you to compete or to compare. And the biggest thing of all, I don't want you to judge this process that you're going through. You know, a lot of things we judge. You know, when it comes to, especially our society, right? We've got sports. We've got the Eagles today. We're going to judge. How are they going to do? People are like, I don't know. Makes me scared. We're in the playoffs. Anything could happen. You remember the past. I remember all those games that we lost. I remember the Super Bowl and Andy Reid. And like, can you go into this process without judgment? Without any judgment at all? Can you go into the process and accept that this is your calling? You've been called to Caron. You have been called here by something that brought you here. And you survived and you made it. Can you trust this calling without going backwards and judging all of the different ways that things looked right or wrong? Or looking at the future and thinking, is this going to work? What's going to happen next? How is this going to look? You know how many times we go through these scenarios where our body actually experiences the future of a future that never happens? They say 80% of trauma comes from something that didn't happen. But the body experiences it as trauma because you're feeling things that could happen, that are triggering things that have already happened in the past. So your ability to accept and love all parts of yourself is the first step in this intuitive process. I mean, really, who judges childbirth in a way? Yeah, you know, I gave it a B+. It wasn't bad, you know, like, I can't judge it, obviously. I'm a man. I mean, I'm watching it, I'm like, this looks terrible. Like, do you judge everything that comes through your lens? And if you do, can you judge that that's okay? There's a reason you judge. I'm going to bet that it goes back to childhood. I remember my parents, they were like, we used to find you downstairs in the bottom of the basement eating dog food. You were crazy. I was crazy? How old was I? 2? Oh, gee. Who's the crazy one? Where are my parents? When I'm at the bottom of the basement, which dry dog food, kennel ration was pretty good. Not gonna lie. Oh, and then that time you stuck the fork in the light socket, we found you in the middle of the floor and the fork was still smoking in your hand. You're crazy. Hold on a second. Something's not adding up here. So as you're looking back on your childhood, as you're looking back on your life and re-experiencing these events, you do realize alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, eating disorders, sex. In today's society where you got the phone, you have access to everything, 110% full on all the time. I'm sitting there was a game between Ohio State in college football. Ohio State was playing for a chance to be in the national championship against Texas. And I'm looking at my phone and I get an alert that the game's tied 14-all going into the fourth quarter. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Of course, I'm getting all these, gambling updates from all these different gambling websites that are saying, Ohio State is now +1, they were -6, now they're +1.5. Of course, my brain's like, Ohio State +1.5 going into the fourth quarter. I've got to get a part of this bet. Because it's still in me. It's always in me. It's competition. It's what makes me. Then I fell asleep. And then, of course, I woke up and saw Ohio State had won 28-14. I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I bet that? That's the thinking that's okay. I don't want you to stop thinking that way. I don't want you to deny any piece of yourself. Don't deny it. Do not deny a piece of yourself because it's a part of you. And everything like that comes up, I want you to love it. So I flew here from France on Thursday with my dog, my toy poodle Daisy. She's the most wonderful. You'll see her. She'll be here the next 2 weeks if you're on campus. She's the best. So I take her over to a friend's house last night, and we just got her all freshly groomed. She's got she's fluffy, she looks good. Take her over to a friend's house where they're having a Thanksgiving in January because they had an extra turkey. So I look over and I see Daisy next to the dishwasher, and she's licking the dishwasher. I'm like, why is Daisy? She's just licking the dishwasher like crazy. I realized that they had put the turkey kind of on the side, and the gravy had been kind of spilling over the side onto the dishwasher, and not only was it running down like a waterfall in the dishwasher, but Daisy's head and her ears are covered in like turkey juice. I was like, what is happening? This can't be, and I took such care to make sure that she was like just right. So I get her home, and all I smell is turkey, coming off her hair, coming off her ears. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I felt, I couldn't get it out of my head. I was literally like ruminating, which you'll learn about probably while you're here. I was ruminating on the fact that I let Daisy take a shower in this turkey broth, that I screwed up. And there was something in that I felt that was old judgment. I screwed up. And it was like all day, I made sure she was fine. The whole time on the flight, I made sure she's fine. I'm watching Daisy. I got to make sure she's fine. Guess who wasn't fine for 35 years, just putting himself, sleeping, passing out in his car, sleeping on the side of the road in 75th and Park. Like, I'm judging myself. It's the same guy who was a kid who said, why isn't anybody watching me? I'd always say, you're not playing right. That's what my aunt would say when we'd play when I was 5 years old. You're not playing right, I'd tell her. Because I'm not playing right in life within myself. So I realized it last night. And as I looked at Daisy, and she was licking her ear and trying to lick her head, I laughed. I was like, I think Daisy had the most fun she probably ever had in life. Getting basted in turkey juice or gravy or whatever it was. Can you laugh at your journey? Can you laugh at what might be some of the worst things that you've ever done? And I don't mean laugh, ha ha, forget them, that's too bad. I don't think you can do that. But this guilt and shame, this package, and we're going to talk about that next week, the guilt and shame bomb that you are replaying over and over and over and over in your head is a future event that doesn't exist, because there is no guilt and shame. You wonder why you feel off balance, why you feel distorted. If you're going to blame yourself for an initiation that was probably planned before birth, that spiritually makes a ton of sense because pain and suffering tends to lead to healing, why does Jesus say more than anything else in the entire Bible, take heart, it is I, do not be afraid? The Sermon on the Mount, Christ says, blessed are the poor in spirit, not the ones who got it fixed, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. I couldn't be here a couple Sundays ago because I thought I had kidney stones. My back was killing me. I didn't know what was going on, and I go to the doctor, and they said that I've got 4 herniated discs. I'm like, what is going on? When you get old. And then I talk to you, and I hear somebody's got a respiratory problem. Someone fell down and got hurt, and somebody else broke their wrist, and somebody else had COVID, and somebody can we see that collectively suffering together leads to healing? Not collectively fixing anything, or not collectively, anything you do by yourself will not work in this. So I want to close with the spiritual advisor, Charlie Sheen. You may remember Charlie Sheen. He was on 2.5 Men. He was in the movie Wall Street, one of my favorite movies back in the 80s. But he was on the TV series 2.5 Men. Is that what it was called? I think. And he was the highest paid actor anywhere. $1 million an episode. And he was in recovery. He was in recovery for many years. And apparently he really was. And then things started to go sideways. And he starts talking about tiger blood and winning and getting online with all this stuff. And he loses his job. And things get messy. But why did Charlie Sheen lose his job? If you go back and look at the story, someone just told it, his co-star in that series. It wasn't that he got back on drugs. It wasn't it. Chuck Lorre, who was the executive producer, I guess, of the show, knew Charlie had a problem. He told him, get help. Get help. Charlie, get help. He didn't get help. That is your mission in life. You want a purpose in life? All of you tell me, I need a purpose. You've got your purpose. That's to be with one another and to love yourself in a way that accepts all of it. Don't try and fix yourself. Know that this was the journey that was chosen for you, that you chose for yourself, and just know that you saying, I don't know what's going on right now, I'm in pain, I don't feel right, things don't seem good, I don't think I'm good. When you do that, we all collectively heal. When you don't have the answer, that's the answer. The answer is not to have the answer. The answer is to show up and to love all parts of yourself, knowing that this initiation brought you here. It brought you to Caron so that you get the chance to get the superpower to love yourself. And the minute you love all of yourself, I guarantee you, you're going to be loving everything else around you. Even if Daisy gets turkey on her head, even if you've got 4 herniated discs, no matter what's going on, once you realize that you have done something you never thought you could do. For me, live a life that I love without drinking. Once you do that, you have a superpower that initiates you into the next phase of life. And that spirituality will carry you forward through all the days of your life. Your purpose is to be in love with yourself and to heal and to know there is nothing to fix. For the love of God made you perfect. The only fix that's needed is for you to take that lens and to love yourself. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.